Yeah, Mark, I mean, Slovenia was scheduled to have the presidency now, and it's just kind of the EU's bad luck that they've ended up having the Slovenian presidency at the time when Janez Janša is at the helm. He has been called a kind of mini Orban. He is a populist leader. He is a fan of Donald Trump. He's cast doubt on whether the election was stolen and that Joe Biden is really the legitimate president of the United States. He's a colorful character. When he was speaking before the European Parliament via video a couple months ago, when he was supposed to be previewing the agenda for the Slovenian presidency, he decided to instead show a bizarre homemade video with his theories about the world. And MEPs actually cut him off. They cut off the video, they cut off his feed and said, you were supposed to be here to tell us about the agenda of the presidency. We're not interested in your home movies. So this could get fiery, but I think it's important to point out that actually the prime minister doesn't really have a role in the rotating EU presidency. Presidency is kind of a misleading name for it. It's really more of a chair position, and it's really more for the Council of Ministers. That is the summits of energy ministers, trade ministers, foreign ministers. What it is that let's say the energy minister from the country that holds the presidency decides the agenda for all of those meetings. So they don't have any actual executing power. They just decide what's going to be discussed. And when it comes to the prime minister, actually, for the configuration at the very top of the council, the prime ministers, there's a permanent presidency position there. The rotating presidency doesn't have an impact on that anymore, since the permanent presidency was created in 2009, currently held by Charles Michel. But traditionally, the prime minister of the country that holds the presidency, they speak at press conferences after councils alongside the presidents of the commission and the council. They hold informal summits in the country over the 6 months. So there will be plenty of opportunities for Janez Janša to embarrass the EU, to go off on his theories. The question is whether the media chooses to pay attention to it, given that he does not have any particular power over the rotating presidency. It just kind of gives him a soapbox and a platform.
It kind of depends what he says, I suppose, doesn't it, Dave, in terms of whether the media takes any notice of what he actually chooses to express. It's the basic problem, though, that Slovenia perhaps wants, in a sense, wants to have its cake and eat it. It wants to be part of the EU, but maybe there are views that, along the lines of those of Viktor Orban in Hungary, aren't really consistent with EU values.
Yeah, I mean, this is the criticism of a lot of Eastern European countries right now. Poland, also Romania, Bulgaria have also drawn fire for this, Czech Republic to an extent. These are countries that had to majorly implement big reforms for rule of law and pluralism and democracy in order to join the EU. And what we've seen is that after they joined the EU in 2004, there's been this backsliding on rule of law and democracy, because actually it turns out that once you join the EU, there isn't really much of a check to make sure that you stay a rule of law liberal democracy. And that's been the big criticism. And that's what people have kind of woken up to here, is that the standards right now for those countries that have not yet joined the EU, so Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, these countries that are in various forms of the accession process, those standards are actually much stricter now than for the countries that are actually in the EU, where we're seeing all this backsliding. And the question asked to Viktor Orban at that very contentious, emotional discussion at the European Council last week was, if you don't want to adhere to the values of the European Union, why are you here? Why don't you just leave? That's what the Dutch Prime Minister said to Orban during that summit. And I think that question is going to be uncomfortably asked to Janša as well, as we're seeing media pluralism in Slovenia eroded. There's threats to the judiciary. No, Janša does not have the kind of power in Slovenia that Orban has in Hungary. So he is a controversial figure within Slovenia, and at any moment his time could be over in Slovenia. That's what political analysts in Slovenia are always saying. So it'll be interesting to see how this presidency plays out given all of that.
Dave Keating, thank you as ever.